Hello everyone and welcome back to another true crime video. So today we're going to be talking about the case of Caroline Glachan. So Caroline Glachan was 14 years old when she was killed on August 24th of 1996 in a place called Dumbartonshire in Scotland. She was born in Northern Ireland, where she lived for the first few years of her life while her father was in the military. But they moved to a place called Bonhill, which was in Dumbartonshire in Scotland, where they were originally from. Caroline was very much wanted by her parents. Her mother had lost 5 babies before Caroline came along. I'm not sure if they were like miscarriages or babies who had died from like illness, but she said that she was delighted that she had given birth to a healthy baby. So when Caroline was 7 years old, her parents got divorced. Her father moved to Edinburgh while she and her mother stayed in Bonhill, but her father came by to visit her almost every weekend. He saw her a lot. She was described as very quirky, very social, and a little bit the class clown, and also a typical teenager. Very often broke the rules and missed her curfew a lot, but she would always come home. A few months before her death, she started dating an 18-year-old boy, and he lived about 2 miles from where she lived. Now, some sources say that this boy already had a girlfriend and that he just wasn't a very reliable boy. Caroline's mother and her friends were really against this relationship because, she was only 14 and dating an 18-year-old. But apparently he was also into drugs. But Caroline kept seeing him. So on the evening of August 24th, 1996, it was the day before her mother's 40th birthday, and her mother was going out with some of her friends for drinks to celebrate her birthday. Before her mother left, Caroline asked her mom if her friend Joanne could stay at the house that night because they were also planning a night out, and she wanted Joanne to sleep over, which her mom was fine with. So Caroline then left the house shortly before 7 p.m. and that was the last time that her mother would ever see her. So around 7 p.m., Caroline met up with her friends Joanne and Donna, and they are seen on CCTV footage. At 10:35 p.m., Caroline is again seen on CCTV footage leaving a mall with Joanne. Around midnight, Caroline told her friends that she wanted to walk over to her boyfriend's house to go see him. Now, he lived 2 miles away, so it would have been about a 40-minute walk. And it would have been a walk around, that would have taken her along forest paths and along a riverbank. And all of this was not lit, and given that it was shortly after midnight, it was pitch black outside. So Joanne offered to walk with her, but Caroline said, "No, I'll be fine." Since Joanne was staying at Caroline's house, she went to Caroline's house and just waited there for Caroline to come back. So in the early hours of the next morning, Caroline's mom came home from her birthday party or birthday drinks and found Joanne asleep in Caroline's bed, but she couldn't find Caroline. So she woke up Joanne, who explained the situation. And initially her mother was worried because it was so dark outside, but then she thought, well, Caroline is quite an independent teenager and she did that walk a lot at night, so she would be fine. I have so many questions about this though. She was 14. Why was she doing that walk a lot at night? At 14? Yes. It was 1996. I was 14 in 1996. There's no way in hell that my parents let me out after dark. And I'm guessing Belgium was a more dangerous country than Scotland. I can believe that. But at 14, I even found it strange that she went out for a night with her friend Joanne, and that all their parents were just okay okay with 14-year-olds going out for a night. I mean, never. I would have never been allowed that from my parents. So I find, I'm sorry, I'm not judging anyone. I don't know the circumstances. It was in the 90s. 1996 is when a very big pedophile case in Belgium broke, so I remember that year very well as being a year that I became very aware of the dangers of the world. But I understand that wasn't the same in every country. I just question why, as a 14-year-old, she was allowed to do a 2-mile walk along very dark areas often, because apparently she did it often. I just find it, I don't know, it just raises questions with me, but maybe that's just with me, I don't know. And again, Caroline broke her curfew a lot, so her mother wasn't really worried and just expected her to come home. But when she didn't come home, by the next morning, her mother started to worry, and she called her sister to see if maybe Caroline had gone there, but she hadn't. She waited at home all day for her daughter, bearing in mind that this day was her 40th birthday. And when she hadn't showed up by 7 p.m., her mother decided to call the police and report her daughter missing. In the meantime, rumors had started going around the area that a body had been found in the river. On the afternoon of August 25th, a man was walking his dog along the riverbank, and he spotted a body floating around in the river. Police were then alerted, and Joanne and Caroline's mother had both heard the rumors, but her mother didn't even entertain the idea it was Caroline. She thought if it was, I would have heard from police by now. But then a few hours later, police did show up at her door. I'm guessing after she reported her missing, police, figured that it could have been her, and the identification might have been a little bit quicker after that. So they did alert her. I mean, it's horrible to hear that news any day, but it was also her 40th birthday, which is just horrible. At first, most people assumed that it was an accidental drowning and that Caroline fell in the river because it was dark out, but police quickly ruled it a murder. It would be very hard for police to find any forensic evidence because she had been in the water for a while, and when they found her, she was half submerged in water and half on dry land. So she was found fully clothed, and her her shoes were taken off her feet and put on the footpath along the riverbank. She had been punched, kicked, and had severe head injuries. Some of her blood was also found on the footpath, and her cause of death was officially drowning, meaning she was actually alive when she went into the river. They don't know if she was conscious or unconscious when she was thrown in the water, but police strongly believe she was unconscious because of the severity of her head injuries. They tried to collect as much forensic evidence as they could, and they also went from door to door to see if there were any witnesses in the area who might have seen something. The murder sent a shockwave through the area. Not only were her schoolmates devastated by what happened, they and everyone who lived in the area were terrified that there was a killer on the loose, like that it could be a potential serial killer, and that this could happen again. She was only a child, and it was a really brutal murder. And also, it was seemingly without a motive because she wasn't sexually assaulted. This was not, she wasn't robbed. She was just beaten up and thrown in the water for seemingly no reason. So police and Caroline's mother made a public appeal for anyone with information to come forward, but this only led to a handful of people coming up with information. There were a few eyewitnesses who said they saw Caroline that night. A taxi driver said he saw Caroline around 12:15 a.m., so about 15 minutes after she left her friends. And both taxi driver and his passenger knew Caroline, so they were sure it was her. He saw her going over a bridge and said that he saw a man standing behind her. The man was standing about 30 feet behind Caroline, just watching her. And they said that he was white, about 22 to 25 years old, and 6 foot tall. And he was wearing a green hoodie with the hood up. The 2 witnesses came forward and said they heard a commotion break out the night Caroline was murdered. They were walking their dog and they heard 2 people arguing, and it kind of sounded to them like it was a couple arguing. And then a 3rd witness came forward saying that around 12:45 a.m. he saw 2 men running as if they were running away from a scene, and one of the men was wearing a dark colored hoodie with the hood up. Police released a composite sketch of the man with the help from the taxi driver who had actually seen his face, but unfortunately no one came forward saying they recognized the man. Police did look into her boyfriend since she was heading his way, and witnesses said they heard what sounded like a couple arguing. But they did a forensic investigation on his house to see if Caroline had been there that night, but they couldn't find anything. And he actually had an alibi that he was out with 3 friends that night, so police ruled him out as a suspect. Over the years, police investigated every lead they possibly could, but they had so few leads to go on, and eventually the case went cold and nothing was found. Then in 2016, so 20 years after her death, police decided to reopen the case. They had a lot better technology at this point in terms of DNA testing, so they wanted to rerun some DNA evidence. They also offered a £10,000 reward for anyone with information in Caroline's case to come forward, and they featured her case on Crime Watch just to get her story out as much as possible. And this did eventually lead to some new leads, but to this day, forensic evidence is still being tested, and the case is still unsolved. So that is really all there is in this case. I find this so creepy, really. I mean, I'm wondering if it was someone she knew and someone she maybe had issues with, because it was such a brutal killing, but for no motive. Like I said, she wasn't sexually assaulted. None of her possessions were missing. It was just a murder, and I don't know. I mean, some people obviously, take pleasure in that, but I wonder if it was so brutal, if it isn't more like an anger thing, and if maybe it was someone she knew, but they just had no idea. I mean, I think a lot of people, especially in the beginning, suspected the boyfriend because he seemed like such a shady type, but I always, while I was researching, I thought it would have been weird because she was on her way to see him. She wasn't actually with him, and police did verify that his alibi was correct, so that he had nothing to do with it. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I find it a little bit strange that she was 14 and was allowed to do so much. That said, I do feel very bad for the parents. I mean, she was their 6th child. After losing 5 babies, they finally had a healthy one, and then at 14 she gets killed, and on her mother's birthday too. I mean, I just think it's really sad. So let me know. I don't think there's a lot of theories. I mean, she was obviously killed by someone. They just don't know who. So, yeah, that's really all there is. So, thank you as always so